scary stories.
Okay, my name is Jason. This is what happened when I was about 16 years old. I'm 27 now, and what happened that day would change everything. I live in West Virginia where there's mountains all around, so I grew up in the woods, hunting, camping, riding ATVs. So one day, me and two of my friends, Brian and Jesse, went out on our ATVs to find a place to camp that weekend. This was Thursday, and we wanted to find a place to camp on Saturday. We went pretty far into the woods to try and find the best spot we could because we were bringing our girlfriends camping with us. So we get probably 5 or 6 miles back into the woods and find this little lake, and we all knew we found it. So we get off and check everything out, make sure it wasn't private property or anything, but there was no signs and wasn't a house around for miles. "This is it," Jesse said, and we all agreed it was perfect. So we all get back onto our four-wheelers and head back knowing that Saturday was going to be a night to remember. But what we did not know was it would be the worst night of our lives. So we get back the next day, we all get our gear loaded up, fishing poles, tents, sleeping bags. We made sure that we had everything we needed to make it a fun night, including 3 bottles of Mad Dog and a 30-pack of Bud Light in a cooler. Waze was ready. We all met up at around 11 o'clock Saturday morning and headed out to our perfect camping spot. When we get there, it was great. We put the tents up, got firewood, and set everything up. The girls loved it too, except Brian's girlfriend. She said she felt uneasy, but we just figured it was because she never had been camping before. So we started fishing and swimming and drinking, just doing everything teenagers do, but Kat just kept looking around and wouldn't join us at all, just sat by the lake. Finally it started to get dark, so we started a fire and made some hot dogs and just sat around it talking, telling stories, everything you do when you go camping. It's about 11:30 when Jess's girlfriend Sam says that she is going to pee and Kat goes with her. They're gone maybe 4 minutes when they come running back saying Kat saw something behind a tree watching them. I grabbed my 9mm Smith that I brought with me, and Jess went to check it out. We don't find anything, so we think the scary campfire stories just freaked them out. We get back and tell them we didn't find anything, but Kat says that she knows what she saw and she wants to leave. We get her to chill out, and me having a gun kind of put her mind at ease. After about 30 or 45 minutes, we was all ready to lay down and spend alone time with our significant others, and no one is even thinking about what Kat saw anymore. I wish we would have left because about an hour goes by. My girlfriend Lindsay is asleep, but I'm just laying there listening to the sounds of the woods when I start to hear footsteps. At first I think it's one of the others, but then I could tell whoever was walking was trying to do it quietly. The footsteps stop at my tent door. I start to freak out inside, but I don't make a sound. They stand there for about 3 minutes. Then I see the zipper start to slowly unzip. I start to grab my gun when I realize I left it in my bag by the campfire. So stupid, I'm thinking. So the zipper moves about 6 inches slowly when Lindsay coughs, and it stops. She's still asleep and doesn't know someone or something is trying to sneak into our tent. I hear nothing for about 5 minutes, then footsteps again, but sneaking away from my tent. I can't move. I'm terrified. All I can do is stay quiet and hope it doesn't come back. 30 minutes pass when all of a sudden the most crazy, evil sounding scream I've ever heard came from the next tent over. And they started screaming, "No! Please, no!" I just jumped up, running out of my tent, and Lindsay is awake now. And I run right to my bag for my gun, Lindsay right beside me, terrified, not knowing what the hell was going on. I grab it out, and I look at their tent. And what I see still haunts my dreams to this day. This pale, white, long arms with long claws at the end of its long fingers. It's like a humanoid type thing, just taking chunks out of Brian, biting him. I fire my gun, it looks up, and its yellow eyes look into my soul. I'm shaking as it starts gobbling towards us, Lindsay screaming. I fire my gun again. It takes off into the woods, screaming that god-awful scream. We run up to their tent, and Jesse and Sam see it all happening, too, so we all run to Brian and Kat, but it was too late. They were both torn up. You couldn't even tell who was who. The girls were crying. Jesse puked, and I felt like I was in a nightmare. I had lime tunnel vision. I was scanning the woods, hoping whatever that was didn't come back. Jesse and the girls were all huddled up to me as we made our way to the ATVs. I'm looking to the woods the whole time, with the gun pointed towards the way that thing ran off. We get to our ATVs, and then I realize the keys are in the tent in my pants. I'm standing in my boxers. About that time, we hear that thing scream again. I tell them to wait there. I gotta go back to get the keys. I didn't have a choice. As much as I did not want to go back there, I ran as fast as I could to the tent to grab the keys and to run back, and there it comes out of the woods, running right at me. I raise the gun and start firing again. I hit it because it yelped and screamed and turned and ran back into the woods again. I ran back to the ATVs, and we rode out of there so fast I'm surprised we didn't wreck or kill ourselves. We went right to the cops and told them everything that had happened. They went up there where we were, came back in what seemed like forever, and took us back there with them. By this time, it was light out. We get back there and everything was destroyed. The tents are all ripped apart and stuff are thrown everywhere. They take me up to Brian's tent, and there's blood everywhere, but no bodies. The cop says, "Where are they?" I said, "I don't know. They was here when we left. That thing was, but must have took them." Then they start saying it looks like a bear did this, and trying to say we was drunk and must have been mistaken about what we seen. I know what I seen, and whatever that was, it wasn't even close to looking like a bear. It was over 10 years later, and Brian and Kat's body have never been found. It was wrote up as a black bear attack. I never talked about it to anyone. Jesse and Sam got married and moved to Florida. Lindsay moved too, but we broke up not long after that happened, so I don't even know where. What still gets me is that whatever it was at the tent first, but Lindsay coughed and it went to Brian and Kat's tent. I don't know why, but I know a cough saved my life. I was 13 at the time, and I was the loner of my life and enjoyed being alone and going on little trips into the woods and doing some reading and other little things. And I did like to leave in the middle of the night and hid among the trees thinking I was a ninja or something like that. But I went out there to play in the trees, and I did have to come back because it was dark, and when everyone was asleep I snuck out to see the creek in the moonlight And so I was walking there being, I suppose, to be asleep, and I was very bright, and realizing I had no idea where I was. I stopped and heard crunching behind me. I looked and I saw a mountain lion inching a good 30 feet to my left side away. I stumbled and stripped spurting. I noticed it heard me, fell and stared at me. Then I screamed and jumped and ran out, not knowing if it was following me. I ran to a small graveyard and fell over a tombstone. I felt an ice-cold hand grab my ruff by the wrist. Was true horror. And then I was yanked to my feet and I was pulled, and the mountain lion jumped out of the trees and headed for me. And still being pulled, I was yanked all the way back to the camp and fell about 15 feet from one of the fires. And when I heard my rescuer yell, "You stupid ass motherfucker!" I looked up. "I love you, Beth." Realizing it was my older sister, she had been trailing me like she does when I left, and had noticed someone in the graveyard. She did not notice the animals, but she noticed a large man figure in a hood walking my way fast, and jumped in. So if it was not for my sister, I would not be alive, even if she doesn't know how much she saved me from. Then she looked into my eyes and said not a word about this to Mom. I shook my head, knowing we would never tell anyone of our trip into the woods, that horrible camping trip.
I'm originally from a major city in southern Ohio, and outside of the town there are a number of smaller townships. One of these is known as the more country bumpkin redneck grit part of town. It's not even the same county, but it is part of the general area my city is in. In the woods there's this legend of Hell's Church, supposedly an old church that burned down where Satanists do rituals now, or a Satanist church that burned down by a ritual. There are a number of Hell's Church myths in Ohio in many different places, but this one was close to us, and a number of my guy friends decided they wanted to be ghost hunters and check out haunted places around where we lived. We were juniors in high school, and while all of us obviously thought this was just stupid bullshit, we thought it was funny to go out and scare ourselves. Plus, most people had cars or driver's license by now, so we were enjoying our new burst of freedom. I'm a scaredy cat about most stuff like this, but I was the most tomboyish girl in the group and always kind of wanted to be able to hang out with the guys. Plus, some of the girls in the group weren't going, so I didn't want to look like a loser or a pussy. So one day in November we decided we were going to go out one night and try and find this church. We had actually been to this location once before that fall, but one of my friends had a curfew. So after exploring an old barn and the railroad tracks on a bridge nearby, we left. We hadn't found the church. We took 2 cars out there going past more populous parts of our city and back to this woodsy area. I can't honestly tell you how we got out there, but I know it's off a state highway, then an abandoned access road, past some old warehouse, and then down a dirt road. Once you get down the dirt road, there's a kind of thicker part of the road early on where we parked cars off of the shoulder. We did this because the road thins out and becomes impossible to drive down. And also, someone clearly owns this land, and later down the road there is some no trespassing signs. I'm not sure a ton of kids come back here, so it did not seem odd to me that they wanted to block this place off. I barely thought twice about it at this time. We get out of our cars and start walking down the dirt road, wandering off the path from time to time to check out barns and clearings where we thought the chimney might be. At first, it was just scary because it was dark and old, or whatever, but then the barns started to get weirder, like they were filled with weird spray painting, symbols, and bullshit. But that's not what bothered us. but also other stuff like dead owls that looked like they had been opened up, and other bits that looked like they might have come from animals. I was grossed out, but we all kind of agreed that this probably came from the same teenagers trying to fake a satanic ritual, or that the animals got trapped in the falling part of the barn and died in there. My friends are now hardcore trying to find this stupid chimney, so they keep taking off through the trees into clearings. Myself and the other two girls who were there kind of hang back on the tree line for most of them, getting a little more nervous and a little irritated with all the coming up empty. As we keep going, we find a bike on the tree line, like a bike that maybe a 12-year-old would ride. That's a little creepy, but fine, whatever. Probably belonged to someone who owned the land. We decided we were going to go a little further, and soon enough we find another bike. This one is older, a little rusted, but still undersized. We did not talk too much about the other bike, just kind of mumbling that it's probably still nothing. One or two of the four guys who were there kind of trying to tump it up, saying these kids probably got murdered or stuff like that, but no one is really having it. By this point we have been here for about 2 hours and it's getting really late, plus I think we were all a little more creeped out than we wanted to admit. We decided to head back to the cars, and I'm feeling relieved, happy to be headed back to my house and the hell out of there. But things never work out that way, do they? By the cars we see a road that goes straight up a hill through the trees. At the start of it, there's a big metal gate that had a road closed sign on it, which we had seen before, but for some reason it had never occurred to us to try and go up to the road. We had a small debate at the gate about an even split on who wanted to venture up and who did not. I absolutely did not, but eventually we decided we'll go up there, just to see. Both of the drivers want to go, so there's not a lot we can do about it. We climb up the gate and start up the hill, where an old pavement road is cracked and crumbled under our feet, though it was, for sure, a real asphalt road at some point. In addition to the road condition and the brush being an obstacle, someone had a full bunch of trees over the path, purposely blocking the road from any cars. Some of us are starting to seriously question if we should be doing this, arguing that someone obviously wanted to keep us out of here, but we get teased for being afraid and keep going. I could not see where the road would end because it was so dark and the tree made it hard to see. Plus the road was super steep, so all you could really see was up, with the little moonlight peeking through the trees. All of a sudden, we reach the end. The trees just open up, and we have come off the incline to a flat field, and holy shit, what a sight it was. It's the flat field with tall prairie grass on either side. The path we are on splits the large clearing we are in down the center and leads through the grass. Two look like they are farmhouses and one varnished building, and while they may have been painted at one point, it looked like they had been mostly weathered and stripped by time. I see this and I am done. I want to leave. But of course, some of my friends say that we have to check out these buildings. At this point, I finally put down my foot, as do the other two girls and one of our guy friends, who decided this is enough for him. So the three guys who want to go to the buildings tell us just to wait there. While we don't want to be in this field out in the open, we decide we can't just leave them. At this point, we have turned off our flashlights because the moonlight is so strong. The three of them take off down the little path, and the four of us who remain stand together, bitching about how stupid our friends are and making small talk. None of us say it, but we are all looking to the grass every now and then, worried something is going to jump out. It's just so creepy, this abandoned little settlement. It feels like our friends are gone forever. We see them get to a building and go inside. We can see the flicker of their flashlights in the windows. And I just remember feeling so tense, it was like watching a horror movie in real life. After maybe 10 minutes, we see our guy friend coming towards us, lightly jogging, looking afraid for the first time all night. "You idiots went inside?" I said, pissed off at them. One of my friends just looks at us, and I'll never forget it. It was full of bikes, just bikes, chained to the walls. We did not believe them, kept waiting for them to say they were kidding, but they insisted, said it was like they were just storing a bunch of bikes there, most of them smaller. They looked afraid. As much as I didn't want to believe them, I did. They are not the type of guys to pull a prank for this long. By then, we all agree we need to get the hell out of there. And we start down the hill, hurrying the best we can. All of a sudden, about halfway down the field, we can see a car's headlights down the hill about where our cars are. We see them pass slowly, and we know that someone is down there looking for us. Because it's so far off the beaten path, we figure it's one of two things: the cops, and we are going to be screwed for trespassing, the people who own this land or these houses or something, and they are going to A, call the cops, or B, murder us. We know that the road isn't that long, so they'll be turning around, circling back soon enough because our cars are there. They'll probably wait for us. We are all whispering about this as we pick up the pace, sprinting down the hill as fast as we can. I'm not a good runner, but I was hauling ass, getting down as fast as I could, basically hurtling over the falling trees. Once we get down the hill, we don't see any headlights, but we know they can't be far away. "Get in the damn cars," one of our friends yells, and we're fumbling with the doors like in a horror movie, just too nervous to get into the cars. We get in, and just as we start the cars up, we see the headlights speeding down the road, a giant black truck roaring behind us. The truck seemed larger than life. Raised off the ground, the whole thing was terrifying, but extra terrifying that we could not see who was driving in the dark, with the headlights blinding us. We peel out of there, total pedal to the metal. This truck is still following us, bearing down on us as our two cars race out of there. The car is also getting real close to us, threateningly close, almost like it was trying to run us off the road. We are all screaming, looking back at the truck, fighting for some distance. Once we get to the highway, we are switching lanes, trying to escape. Luckily, we were in sedans, so it is easier for us to weave in and out of cars. But this truck is still chasing us. We are in two different lanes, but don't want to get too separated from our friends. The passengers of both cars are texting back and forth, trying to make a plan. It took us about 15 minutes to lose the truck. I'm not sure if the distance was too much, or if they turned around. But once we got to a big shopping center area, we ducked off the road and into a Sonic parking lot. We all sat in our cars for a little bit, watching to make sure that we weren't going to get snuck up on before getting out of our car to get some food and talk. Everyone was pretty shaken up. It took us a while to settle down enough to head home. As much as we talked it over, we just could not figure out what had happened. Eventually, we all went home during what was a pretty silent car ride, exhaustion and lingering fear taking over. We did not talk about it again for a long time, and we never called the police, which honestly, as an adult now, I feel like we should have. I don't think about it often, only during the fall, really. But when I do think about it, I ask myself, who chased us? Why was the town abandoned? Who owned those bikes? And where are they now? If you are new, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe to my channel, as it really helps me out. And if you are already subscribed, welcome back and thank you for subscribing.